Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of the week.
Many people simply love roller coasters. They provide joy and excitement to many families visiting amusement parks. Roller coasters can be mechanically engineered wonders and seem to defy gravity with ease. What happens when these coasters prove to be a threat to the riders and the staff? Today, we are counting down the top 10 banned roller coasters you can't ride anymore. Number 1 will seriously shock you, so stay tuned to the end. Don't forget to hit that bell so you will be the first to be notified when we post. Let's get into it. Number 10. The Big Bad Wolf. This roller coaster was located in Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, in James City County, Virginia. This was a suspended roller coaster. Instead of the rails being below you, they're above you, leaving your feet to dangle freely in the air. Pretty terrifying if you ask me. Its designer, Anton Schwarzkopf, simply named its prototype the Flying Coaster. The coaster was supposed to be built to balance the losses of the park due to its heavily unprofitable predecessor. The Big Bad Wolf was ready in June 1984, although it was delayed by a couple of months. The company that held the contract to the Wolf went bankrupt in 2002, and maintenance was grueling. Millions of dollars were spent buying new spare parts, which were already hard to find, and maintenance was even worse with its location being so difficult to access. On May 2nd, 1993, an employee was killed by a fast-moving train while he was trying to remove a fallen branch obscuring the view for the ride's passengers. However, the area he was working in was restricted both to the visitors and the staff. His family tried to sue Busch Entertainment Inc., claiming the company sent him there on purpose, but the case was dismissed by a judge. On March 1st, 2003, another man was working on the Big Bad Wolf, restoring its paint job. He was standing on an aerial working platform when his vehicle overturned. Unfortunately, he died before the firemen who arrived at the scene could reach him. It truly deserves its name being the Big Bad Wolf. After 25 years of service, the ride had been retired in 2009. Number 9. Starjet, Casino Pier, New Jersey. If you have watched the news in 2012, you will probably remember Hurricane Sandy, as it was the most destructive and deadliest one of its kind in the 2012 hurricane season, as the hurricane wrecked many structures all around the Atlantic coast. What it also took down was the Starjet roller coaster in the New Jersey Casino Pier. It just casually swept the whole steel roller coaster into the sea without batting an eye. The eye of the storm, that is. It operated from 2002 until October 29, 2012, which is when Sandy took it down. It was not wholly destroyed, however, as most of its structure remained intact. The sea coaster was removed in 2013. While the Starjet was still operating, it had claimed the life of a Bulgarian student worker that was struck by a moving train, working in the restricted area trying to locate a lost hat. Sounds familiar? That's because the number 10 incident is eerily similar. It seems these accidents are not too uncommon. Starjet's replacement roller coaster, Hydrus, opened in early 2017. This time though, they did not build it on the pier, but instead on the beach to shield it from future storms. Smart choice. Number 8. The Rat, Loudon Castle. The Rat in Loudon Castle is one of those roller coasters that look uneventful, but are really not. In 2009, a teenager plunged to his death while he was working his first day in the park. Mark Blackwood, the teenager who fell, has received training on how to operate the ride just hours before he fell down the roller coaster. Noticed that the cart had stopped and given it a push to get it back on track, while his supervisor said that he should always radio staff or maintenance. That is not what he did, ultimately leading to his demise. As he was pushing the cart back onto the track, it suddenly started climbing upwards, and before he could do anything, he was climbing with it, clinging to the back of the cart and hanging off of it. After it had gone some way, he slipped and fell. He later died because of his injuries. Dying on your first day at a new job is nothing short of terrifying. Number 7. The Thunderbolt, Dreamworld Amusement Park. Our next one on the list is not technically banned, but it was still closed due to it not being successful enough, which is technically still being banned by the public, right? In 1982, Dreamworld opened its first roller coaster, the Thunderbolt. It was the first ever coaster in Australia that had vertical loops, which was a pretty big achievement. Many little improvements have been made over the year, making it better with each purpose. For example, in 1995, a whole new train was purchased for $500,000, all to make the ride more comfortable for the park goers. In 2002, the park decided to redevelop the coaster. Many companies were approached by the park to take over this huge project. After a while, it was determined that working on the coaster was unfeasible due to its condition not being the best. In 2003, the ride was closed with the park trying to sell it afterward. However, they were not successful with it. It was then removed in 2004. What a sad fate for the coaster. Number 6. Hercules. I do like roller coasters. Believe me, I do. However, wooden roller coasters give me a shiver down the back. The thought of being among dizzying heights with nothing but a thin wooden structure below me is not a very calming thought, if you ask me. Hercules in Dorney Park was just that. Its longest drop was 151 feet, again, with nothing but wooden sticks to support it. The goal here was to build a world-class wooden roller coaster, which they did succeed with. It was popular among the parkgoers and was well received by the public. A few years later, after its opening date, they decided to make multiple modifications. The famous belly-turning drop got lowered, and not just once, but twice. After the park went through with its off-season modifications, the roller coaster lost its popularity with riders after being less impressed by it than before. It closed in 2003, and just a few days after it was closed, they already announced that a new steel coaster was going to replace Hercules, a coaster that goes by the name of Hydra, the Revenge. It seems that Hercules did not win this fight against the Hydra as he originally did in mythology. Number 5. The first derby racer. We say the first derby racer as there were two constructed right after one another. The first one was, however, the more notable one. Built in 1911 at Revere Beach, it was a two-tracked roller coaster where one would race the other while on the coaster. The owners of the Derby Racer claimed that this coaster was the second largest roller coaster ever built at that time. No one can prove it now anymore, and it certainly isn't the second largest anymore, as there have been way too many roller coasters overshadowing the Derby Racer in every way possible. The first racer had an especially poor safety record and was relatively dangerous for its riders. Right after the roller coaster opened, a man was thrown off the coaster, inflicting life-threatening injuries. 6 years later, another man died being flung off of the coaster in almost the same way as the previous incident. The next being flung off accident then happened in 1929, which resulted in a court case against the operators. In 1937, it was torn down and a year later replaced by the second Derby Racer. After all these people being flung off a roller coaster, I'm contemplating never to go on one again. Number 4. The High Roller. This ride opened in 1996 and was built around the Stratosphere Tower in Las Vegas. The coaster started at the observation platform at the top and wound around all around the tower. Due to its building constructions, the ride was neither a fast nor intense ride. The height was the primary excitement element. Not many people thought so, however, and many reported it to be quite boring. When the time came to refurbish the coaster, it was noticed that this ride was one of the least popular rides and that maintenance would cost $500,000. The owner then decided to remove it. While it was operating, it has one particular case that was known about. When the ride was started, it was noticed that 2 wheels fell off the ride, leaving its passengers dangling 900 feet above ground, a nightmare for anyone with a fear of heights. Thankfully, nothing happened and the ride was fixed and back in operation roughly 4 hours later. Number 3. Expoland Fujin Raijin 2. Expand in Suta, Japan, has been thriving as an amusement park for over 30 years. One of the park incidents is particularly shocking. On May 5th, 2007, the Fujin Raijin 2 was having a normal operating day until something very bad happened. The park's stand-up coaster derailed, killing a 19-year-old uni student and injuring 19 people. The investigation that commenced revealed that what was happened was that the ride derailed due to a broken axle, and it turned out that none of the axles have been replaced in over 15 years. The ride was closed, undergoing inspection, and never opened again after the incident. Number 2. Big Dipper, Omaha. Our 2 number spots are not something for the weak of heart. This ride stood in Crook Park in Omaha, Nebraska. In 1930 is when the disaster happened. It was even considered the deadliest roller coaster accident in the United States up to that point. On July 24th, 1930 is when the Big Dipper crashed. A bolt came loose and 4 cars full of children and young adults plunged to the ground. 4 people from the age of 15 to 29 died in the accident and an additional 17 people were injured. The city council immediately came into the picture, banning roller coasters in all of Omaha. A terrible accident, isn't it? Number 1. Big Dipper, Battersea Park. Both of our top number 2 spots are roller coasters called Big Dipper. If you ever plan to build a roller coaster, consider not calling it the Big Dipper. This is another wooden roller coaster, which we already established earlier isn't the most comforting thought. In 1972 is when this accident happened. The cart came loose from its rope pulling mechanism. It rolled down backward and started gaining speed. Even with the best efforts of the brakemen, it still broke through a barrier and the other 2 cars crashed on top of it. 5 children were killed and another 13 injured. This ride was closed after the incident and dismantled shortly after. This should be a reminder that whatever you work on, if other people are involved, security is always the number 1 priority. So, there you have it, 10 banned roller coasters you cannot ride anymore. If you liked this video, consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that like button. See you in the next one!